Greetings, dear ones. I am Sonia, the host of the Treasures You podcast. Let us aspire to be the greatest forms of physical expression by allowing our presence to navigate the steps of our journey through the highways of our mind, the roads of infinite potential, and within the inner sanctum of our heart, knowing that the treasure is you. As you can see, I have a guest on the Treasures You podcast, and he believes most people cannot use their full potential because they are limited by mental and emotional straitjackets. They are overwhelmed, they feel not good enough, and are not making a difference. This brain sickness is the consequence of living someone else's life. You can dismantle the straitjackets by unleashing and using your uniqueness. Brain fitness trains you to live your own life. Your well-being, performance, and creativity will significantly improve. And he enables professionals, managers, and entrepreneurs to make a difference. And he also enables people to move from fitting in to flying out. So I welcome to The Treasure Is You, Arnold Beekes.
Thank you very much, Sonia. That was beautiful.
Yes, and it felt natural as I was reading those words.
Well, it means that it resonates, right?
Yes, it definitely resonates. Arnold, first, I would like to say that I appreciate what you're doing in the world. Especially, I aligned with the knowing that our uniqueness is what makes the difference. I definitely align with that. I would like for you to begin to tell the viewers and the listeners your story, how all of this came about.
Yes, thank you. I would say it was not a process where I was 5 years old and I knew what I wanted to do. Uh, well, there are a few people out there in the world who know that when they're 5 years old, they want to be a doctor or a fireman or whatever. Most of my life, I had no clue. But still, I had the feeling, in hindsight, that everything what I've experienced, everything what I've done, builds up to what I'm doing now. So I'm focused on mental wellness as opposed to mental illness,
Yes.
which in our society is called mental health, but it's got nothing to do with mental health. Just as we call it healthcare system, is basically a sick care system. It's not a healthcare system. It doesn't focus on health. You cannot go to your doctor or hospital and say, what diet should I follow? What should I do to keep my longevity? If you ask those questions, they will look at you like, you're totally wrong here.
Yeah.
That's why I say, and it's not semantic. It's like those names are completely wrong and put you on the wrong foot. But coming back, mental illness is what I experienced a lot when I grew up in my family. It was a family of 5, 3 children and the parents. And I would say that, well, both my parents had some form of mental illness. My father was very, very authoritarian. My mother, I think, was already then kind of depressed. My sister was depressed. My brother had anger issues. So that is the environment in which I grew up, but that was not diagnosed because I'm a very old guy. Yeah. So nobody talked about mental health care, whatever, not even labeling it like that, whatever. So it was just like, well, I had to deal with it, huh?
Right.
Which was very, very challenging. So that's my upbringing. Fast forward, well, at least the thing what I developed out of that, which is, I could say, a common denominator throughout my work, is coaching. Because coaching, if you have scale, a spectrum of where coaching is, that on one hand you get like dictatorial, authoritarian way of dealing with people, and coaching is at the other end.
Right.
At a young age, I already very, very consciously choose to go for the other end because I totally disliked the way my father approached us.
Right.
Hmm?
Right.
But in that time, coaching and well, only existed in sports, but it wasn't used in daily life or in any other, or in business or whatever. But I consciously choose, like, I don't want to be like that.
Right.
Hmm?
Well, Arnold, can we back up just a little bit? Can you share with the viewers how was your father?
I was always afraid of him. Almost never abused us physically,
Right.
but non-stop criticizing.
Mm.
Whether well, I always had to do some chores for him, like cutting the grass, and Arnold, that's not good, that's not good, that should be done better. I had to
Right.
always paint the house, and Arnold, that should be other, that should be other. Eh? When I
Right.
get grades at school, it was never good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that was with basically everything. Yes, the way you eat your food, what you said, whatever. He was always criticized.
Hmm.
So that made me afraid
Right.
because I was like, oh, will he be angry or not?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
So when we talk about, well, I think all of us have an inner voice, which we call the inner critic.
Yeah.
I got a huge inner critic because it was, for me, I guess it was kind of a defense against, like, well, let's first criticize myself before my father does it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because then I'm already prepared for what he's gonna do.
Yes.
Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
So I was also very active in one sport. Well, in your country, it started a music called field hockey. It's very popular in where I'm from. I'm from the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though I played at the highest level in the youth, whatever, always criticizing.
Wow.
Whereas the parents of my teammates, a lot of times going, Arnold, you played really well. You were really good. You're really good. My father never.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is why I developed, is like, I don't want to treat people like that.
Right.
And it created that I'm extremely maybe vulnerable, or well, I'm at least, I'm also used to criticism,
Mm-hmm.
which is not nice because it well, it impacts your self-confidence. It impacts, well, the way you feel.
Right.
Because yeah, and even, well, in Europe, your grading system in school is from 0 to 10, whereas you got A, B, C, or whatever.
Right.
But 10 is the highest score. So, for instance, if I would get an 8, where most parents and people would be really happy, and I was
Yeah.
like, not good enough.
Not him, huh?
Yeah,
Wow. So I know that played a lot in your life on shaping you because
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. And not only me, but also my siblings, also my mother.
Yes.
So it's well, I think also himself, because I'm totally convinced that he had the good intentions,
Yeah.
but it hurt everybody.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's what you shared sounds so familiar to a lot of clients of myself. It's like that same story is controlling, and it's what they know. Like your father, he did what he knew, right? Right? His
Yeah,
parents,
and I think 100% he tried to do his best.
right. That's what I'm saying. That he just did what he knew, which, was whatever words you want to use, mental abuse, controlling. I like to say controlling. You're trying to control every aspect. Yeah. So, yeah, I can relate to that because I had a controlling father as well, very authoritative and controlling, very controlling. So you feel like you're on eggshells. You can't do nothing right, you know?
So even when I would get at school an 8 or a 9, I wasn't sure because like maybe he doesn't like it. Eh?
Right, right.
So that has an influence. So that is why being afraid, full of fear, whatever, it was well ingrained in our upbringing. Huh?
Right. Yeah, I can relate. So let's fast forward now to what you're
So
doing in the world. Yes.
that is well. So that's a part where I personally had this experience of mental illness, dealing with people with mental illness.
Right.
Um, Fast forward many years, something like 10 years ago, I started working with young people. I'm at that point in time, I lived for a short while in Budapest in Hungary,
Mm-hmm.
and they were 18, 19, beginning of, well, 20 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
And what I heard from them, now it's not amazing, but this was already 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
All of them had already experienced some kind of mental emotional challenges, or they knew a family member, a friend, whatever. Yeah, so a lot of them, the young they are, yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
already experience like stress or burnout or
Right.
depression. Um, all of them, and I'm not exaggerating, all
Really.
of them knew someone who had committed suicide. Yeah.
Really. Whoa.
This was 10 years ago. Well, I had the same response like you. Is the first time I read it, like, oh, dude, you're 20 and you already had a burnout. I'm like, what? You're just
Yeah.
getting started, eh?
Right. Right. Wow.
So soon after that, I had to. Well, I'm well at that point in time. I was Dutch. I lived in Hungary, but then I had to go back to take care of my mother. She had some hip and knees things, so I went go back. I lived with her. I helped her, and I expected that I could go back again. But then she developed dementia, Parkinson. So that
Mm.
was my. So I had one end. I had the experience of mental illness with well a young family,
Right.
but now I had what they call mental illness for the elderly. Yeah,
Right.
with Alzheimer, depression,
Mm-hmm.
dementia, and whatever. So I was the main care provider for my mother the last 8 9 years. She died
Wow.
now, and I had to sell the house and everything like that. So, and in the meantime, it was I already told that nobody in my family was when I grew up was diagnosed with those. mm, I wouldn't say illnesses, but well, it doesn't matter. Let's not go there. But the my sister was, let's say, 6 7 years ago, formally diagnosed with depression, which she already had as a teenager.
Right.
But then
Right.
she was officially diagnosed. So she went into that process of like, okay, you get officially depression. We got to follow a certain path, which is globally is like, well, they try to give you medicine to numb you down, and they give you some talk therapy or drama therapies. I'm saying it
Right.
whatever, but basically it doesn't work and it doesn't help. Yeah.
Right.
So that was also the case with my sister. So, and they were pushing her to go to classes and do classes again, which she already had done or whatever. And actually, it made things worse. So I had to go with her to that institution and help her and talk with those guys. Like, and they were pushing her to do a class which she hated to do it again, and that was just for their numbers. They needed
Right.
full classes. Yeah?
Right. I see.
This
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
call it utilization. The utilization numbers are like, we get 2, 3 open slots. So why don't you do it again? Well, I already did it and it didn't help and I don't like it. Don't mind. Do it again. So that's why I did go with her to
Right.
help her and protect her uh,
Mm-hmm.
when you're depressed and whatever. And I'm a big guy that helps. So it's like yeah, but it's ugly, isn't it? That it had to go like this. Yeah. And I
Yes.
had to protect her. And
Yes.
I can still recall when I was on my bike, was Netherlands, you're biking, so going back home, and I'm like, whoa, whoa.
Yes.
Once you are in a position like that,
Yeah.
and I can recall, and well, I won't go into detail, but while we were waiting for the meeting outside of the building, my sister saw some folks who she knew where she had been in some of the classes. So she started talking, and I let them talk, whatever. Then she came
Right.
back and she said, Arnold, there were 2 people out of the group I knew who committed suicide.
Mm.
So that's why I was telling him. I say, hey guys, you say it works perfectly, but I just did 10 minutes ago that people committed suicide. So it's not working as you say to me. Eh?
Right. Right.
So again, coming back to on my bike back, and I'm like, once you're in that position, which there at the moment millions and millions and millions of people, you're really screwed. Sorry for the word. Yeah, and it like you really need to prevent at all cost that you come in that position, and luckily not all, but a lot of it can be prevented. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both for the younger people things, but also with the elderly, even with the dementia and the Alzheimer's. So that's when I decided, I think, just like with body fitness, we need to work on brain fitness.
Right.
That
Yes.
was my aha moment, is like, we need to work on the prevention side because the cure side, which is no cure at all, doesn't work.
Right. No, doesn't. Yeah, I have a family member right now that I help that has Parkinson's, and everyone's Parkinson's, is different for each person, but yeah, I have to help her. Matter of fact, I was helping her yesterday with my other aunt, and yeah, it's a sight to see. And then, like, I was on the phone for maybe a week trying to get care and, to help my other aunt who needs help with taking care of her sister, because my family member is a wanderer. She's very active. Her mind is very active and she can't keep still, and she hurts herself. So it's a 24-hour job, taking care of this person that you love. And then the person that's taking care of her, she doesn't really know all of what's happening and she's frustrated. So, I have to step in to like ease the pain and try to, find some kind of solution, which, and she is a veteran. I'm telling you. So everything I tried, I exhausted all of the possibilities to try to get her some help. I just feel like the main help is us coming together, being there, and because the systems were not assisting her. You see, she made too much money. She can't get in this system. She can't. So I'm like, well, what is she supposed to do? So that's where I come in to at least help my other aunt, because she can't do it all. It's too much. And then if you don't know what's happening, with that person, yeah, it could be very uh what's the word I'm looking for? You can become exhausted, burnt out, depending on, that person that has Parkinson's, depending on their activity. I know that my family member is very active, so you have to like be on that. You got to be on her 24 hours a day. But I found out when you come together, if you can work, like I work with my aunt, I help her just to relieve her some. So I can resonate with that. And you took care of your mother. Oh, you are, I'm gonna say an angel. You probably don't want me to call you that, but yes, doing that, having the patience, and now creating brain fitness here to help whoever in this world that has mental illness, that has all these types of dis-ease within their body, right, within their mind, within their emotion. It disrupts their whole beingness. So I know I went on a little rant, but I had to jump in because of what you said about Parkinson's. And when people have these things, and you said your sister, and they get into the systems that do not work, as you said, and I agree with you because I exhausted all the possibilities to help my family member, and it's like nothing was there to help her. So you can continue now. But yes, I agree.
No, it's kind of a forgotten group of people. The family members, maybe neighbors, maybe friends. In my case, I was the only one. Uh, but it's extremely tough on them, and people forget
Yes.
that. It's tough on you, on your aunt, and
Yes.
there's basically nothing for that. It's like
Right.
you got to figure it out, and fortunately, at some point in time, there came some help to put my mother in and out of bed and dress her and
Right.
shower her.
Right.
But that was only 2 times a day. The rest of the 23 hours was on me. So um,
Yeah.
I've spoken to so many people when I mentioned this because I'm rather vocal about it. But it's like,
Mhm.
and then you get, well, let's put it like that. Most families are not functioning very well. Let me put it like that. Eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, well, at least a couple of folks don't get along, and then well,
Yeah.
so that makes that usually it's just one person who's supposed to do that. I've spoken to so many. It's like, well,
Yeah.
you really have to be careful that you don't get sick yourself because it is very tough and very challenging, and
Yes.
there's no help in society. It
Exactly.
like they don't even explain stuff to you. You all have
Yeah.
to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
And hey, I need to earn money, but that is hard if you are 24 hours per day supposed to take care of your mother. Yeah, so it like
Yeah.
yeah, and I was, but there are. I think there even yeah, as there are millions of people who have these problems, like with dementia and Alzheimer. There are millions of people in the world, which means there are millions of people taking care of it.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not a small group of people; it's a lot of people. So, but you're all supposed to figure it out and
Right.
just do these things. But it's like, hey, I couldn't work full time. There's certain things I couldn't do, or whatever. So we're like, nobody cares.
Right. Yeah.
No social benefits, nothing. Huh?
Right. Yeah. Yes. I can relate. I definitely can relate. So I just want to ask you next. Let me see. I got some notes here. Okay. I'm kind of jumping around because you have so much on your website. You have so much information that can help people that may be depressed, that may have mental confusion. And I want to ask you, you have what? Okay. What is digital dementia?
Well, well, the people who are confronted with dementia is usually their parents. Huh?
Right.
people, well, it starts younger and younger, but let's say in their 70s, 80s, older.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why a lot of people associate dementia with aging
Right.
and with a disease of the elderly. Well, there's one thing wrong about that. It doesn't start. It's not like something which pops up out of the blue and you're 75 and then you get dementia. No,
Right.
it started 30 years before that. So that's
Right.
another reason why I say you need to work on prevention. And actually, there's research which shows that 60 to 90% of all the dementia and Alzheimer cases can be prevented, but then you must not start as like, oh, it started, what can we do? No, you got to start 30 years before that. Eh?
Yes.
Coming back to your question about digital dementia means is that by continuously sitting on your phone, because that's what people mostly use,
Mm-hmm.
young people,
Mm-hmm.
and then many, and we're talking about the million, they
Yeah.
develop digital dementia, meaning they cannot memorize stuff. They cannot
Right.
concentrate. They cannot understand the storyline. Yeah?
Right.
So that is what they call digital dementia. So that is what you typically see with young people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that.
And that is a serious thing because well, there is a scientific example of like they ask young people to read three sentences and is it like John is wearing a green hat and Trudy is wearing a blue hat and they're going walking in the city and they do this and that. Which color is the hat of Trudy? I don't know. So they cannot recollect what they read.
Right.
Hmm?
Right. I got you. Mm-hmm.
That is now. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's
and,
now.
and that is not with people in the 70s, 80s. This is with teenagers and people in the 20s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wanted to ask you now, can you talk about, okay, I read on your website, what is the master class? I see you have on there.
Yes, I basically got master classes, which are videos, which
Mm-hmm.
are set up as if it's a personal workshop for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a video which usually is around 90 minutes where I ask you questions, I give you assignments. Yeah, I recorded a video with my business partner, and so it's like it's not interactive, but you have the feeling that it's interactive, and it's talking about some of these things like habits,
Right.
relationships,
Right.
emotions, aging. In the aging one, I address the digital dimension. Yeah?
Right.
So curiosity. Yeah? Those are some of the topics which I address in those what we call master classes, where you can
Mm,
go over it, learn, apply, and I ask you questions, and you is the viewer to help you cope with that particular topic. So
right.
they're kind of topic specific. In addition to that, I got training which covers all of these aspects,
Okay.
and these trainings are interactive. Yeah, so it's like me working with you live, yeah, and with
Mm-hmm.
a group of people where I help people, well, two different groups of people. One of them is what I will call from fitting in to flying out, where
Right.
people, the fitting in is what most, if not all of us do from the
Yeah.
moment we're born. From the moment we're
Exactly.
born, we are what you call controlled. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're controlled by our parents because they want us to be a good baby and sleep well and eat well and blah blah blah. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
When was Sonia a good baby? When you do exactly what your parents tell you to do. Then you go
Yeah.
to school. When are you a good student? When you do exactly what the teacher tells you to do.
Yeah.
Then well, it doesn't matter which type of school. Then maybe you go to university. Same story. When are you a good student? When you do what your professor tells you to do. Then
Mm-hmm.
you start
Mm-hmm.
working. When is Sonia a good employee? When you do exactly what your boss tells you to do. So by the time we're 25 or so, the only thing what we have learned is to live someone else's life.
Right.
The only thing we've learned is to fit in.
Yes.
The only thing what we have learned is what I call to live someone else's life.
Right.
You live the life of your parents. You live the life of your teachers. You live the life of your bosses. So that is what I call fitting in.
Right.
And most of us are in that condition because that is how our upbringing, that's our education system, that's our business system, that's how everything is set up. Everything is set up to control you.
Right.
The
Right.
consequence of controlling is that you're not living your own life.
Right.
So
Right.
living your own life is what I call flying out. So there's one training which I call from fitting in to flying out, is where I help people make that shift towards starting to live like my own life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which sounds simple, but it is totally not simple. It started with me in the beginning of my 40s, and I can still recall I had a coach then, and I was very successful in the corporate world, blah, blah, blah. But I was saying, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this. I don't like this. I don't like it. Yeah, yeah, Arnold, I understand. But what do you want?
Right.
I had no clue. I couldn't answer him. And since then, I applied the same question to many, many people, clients, all kinds of people in my environment. Hardly nobody has a clue because we know what other people expect from us.
Right.
So we know perfectly well what the other people. Oh, you got to do this. You got to do this. Sonia, you got to do this. Arnold, you got to do this. Yeah. So we never gave it a thought in. But what do I want?
Right. Right. Very true. Very true.
So that is one training where I help people with that process.
Mm-hmm.
The other training is what I call from flying out to extraordinary. And in that training, I help mostly entrepreneurs, freelancers, people are running their own show and who really want to do something game changing. Where they
Right.
really say, I want to build a better community. I want to help my city. I want to help my people. I want to help my country. I want to do something globally to stop all the weather modification. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yes, so
Right.
in order to do that, you need to also shift your brain operating system from copying other people, from
Right.
doing the same approaches over and over and expecting a different result, to
Right.
following a total new approach, both for you and for the market.
Right. And that's definitely achievable through your classes.
Absolutely. It's not just the one of it, it's 15 trainings,
Okay.
15 sessions of 90
Okay.
minutes each over a period of 15 weeks, where in the meantime you get assignments, you read stuff, you research stuff, you do things. So it's an intensive process, but it's like I call it upgrading your brain.
Right. Yes. I love that. I love it.
We are so used. Everybody says, well, do you upgrade your phone? Yeah, of course I do that. And blah blah. You upgrade your PC? Yeah, yeah. How many times you do that? Well, almost every day or every few days or whatever. How many times did you upgrade your brain?
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
basically zero. Basically zero, because from that controlling, conditioning environment in which we grew up, most people stay there until they die.
Right.
So
Yeah.
by upgrading your brain, I call it a brain operating system,
Mm-hmm.
BOS, BOS, brain operating system.
Okay.
So you need to upgrade your brain from fitting in to flying out to extraordinary.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. Like when you say that, it's like I get chills because it's like I'm hearing truth in there. I'm not hearing that conditioned mind that we all have been conditioned. I know I have, right? You have as well. So when somebody starts speaking from their heart and saying that, okay, you can wake up tomorrow if you have the dedication, right? If you discipline yourself, if you allow yourself to realign and to reactivate, right? If you allow yourself for this new expression, this new being, these new ways to come into your life, then you can definitely make a change. So I just want to ask you now, Arnold, if you can say to the viewers and listeners from your website, maybe give them a tip because we're going to round up this podcast right now. And I just want you to share with them maybe a simple point. And I already have your website up there, and they can reach out to you if they feel like they want to take any of your master classes, because maybe they do want to fly out. They don't want to stay in the same mindset. They want to fly out and they want to explore new paths so they can be their greatest version of themselves. Can you just give some last words? We're going to take it from there.
Yes, thank you, Sonia. There are basically two principles which I would like to say. The number one is take back your power.
Yes. Yes.
We have given away our power. Well, we couldn't even know. I literally say from the moment we're born. Yeah? Yeah?
Right.
Yeah? So to all those people, whether it's parents, whether it's friends, whether it's your boss, whether it's your colleagues, we've to our children, whatever, we've given away our power. So I
Yeah.
say to all of them, take back your power. The
Yeah.
second principle, which I encourage people to do, is to start to think for yourself.
Right.
Don't believe other people. Don't believe a lot of the narratives. There's a lot of discussion around censoring a propaganda, whatever. But the main thing to deal with that is to think for yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
I invite Sonia's audience to start thinking from yourself. It's not like, hey, A says this and B says this. Yeah, but what do you say?
Right. Right. Yes, I agree. I agree. Well, as I say too at the end of the podcast, to always stay in the present now moment, to realize that your uniqueness is what is going to make the difference in your life. Because guess what? You are not supposed to fit in. You are supposed to be unique and shine your light every single day. That is what you are supposed to do. You are not supposed to fit in and try to be like Bob or Mary or Sam. You're supposed to be like who you are. So find the courage to allow your uniqueness. And the one way of doing that is to let go of those habitual habits and to allow your own uniqueness to guide you. And lastly, remember that the treasure is you. So take care and namaste.